So a few videos back, I saw a comment where someone was asking if I could make a video about having a boss that's basically a jerk, like when you're having problems with your boss. And I feel uniquely qualified to help us all get better together around this topic because I have gotten a couple of jerk bosses fired. We'll get into that later on in the video. But for now, let's talk about how we can get better together. Okay, so what do you do when your boss is a jerk? It is universally experienced by everyone at least once in their life, some of us more, to have a boss that's just a complete and utter jerk. It might be your direct boss, it might be the boss above the boss. It's a problem. It's really a problem because sometimes people are really good at what they do, but they're not really good with the people part of what they do. And being a manager, a director, a supervisor, a foreperson, any of those things, you know, team lead, that requires you to be good with people. But very often, your place of business doesn't find out how good someone is with people before they promote them. This happens to such a shocking degree that I have actually gotten not one, but two bosses fired in my 30 years of work experience. There might have been a third one that I may have had a hand in too. You're like, teach us your ways, Obi-Wan. First of all, if you are experiencing any kind of workplace harassment or abuse, okay, that's like separate from this video, but I do want to address it right up front, okay? You have HR departments, you probably, depending on the size of your company, you might have an anonymous hotline you can call. There are attorneys who take these cases pro bono, and they only make a fee out of what they earn. I strongly, deeply believe in fighting harassment in the workplace because you're not just fighting it for yourself, you're fighting it for the other people who will come after you. The people who've come before you and didn't fight. You're fighting that fight for them. And I'm not gonna lie to you, fighting any kind of workplace harassment gets ugly. And if you're struggling with it, if your company's big enough, you probably have an employee assistance program where you can get some free counseling specifically to help you through this process. You've got your HR department. If it's a smaller company that you work at, again, seek the help of people who support people who are fighting harassment. There's a lot of people out there that do that. I owe a huge debt of gratitude for my mother because she taught me to fight. Even though ultimately my mom lost her fight, she lost her job, she ended up getting blackballed, which means she couldn't find another job because every time people called for a reference, they basically said, oh no, you don't want to hire her, which is now illegal, but back in the early 80s it wasn't. But my mom fought. She showed me that no matter what, you fight back. If somebody sexually harasses you, you don't have to give in, you can fight back, and yeah, you may lose, but you have to fight back. So to every person who has ever fought back against harassment, high five, you rock, and thank you, because it makes it so much easier for today's people to fight harassment and to stop harassment from happening at all. But as I said, that's another much longer topic. So the first thing I really want to ask you is I want to ask you a really difficult question that I had to ask myself. Are they really a jerk? Like, what? Yes, they're a jerk. Trust me, total jerk. Always picking on me, has something to say about everything I do. They're singling me out all the time. They're a total jerk. Or as my friend Mary used to say back when I worked at Regis, he's a tool bag. It was the first time I ever heard anybody say that, and I laughed hysterically. Why am I asking you, are they really a jerk? So I've got a story for you. Now, this is a story that has both a happy ending and also an I got this person fired ending. We'll circle back around to how I got them fired a little bit later in the video, but I do want to help you understand what leads me to ask this question. So I had this boss. His name was Jim. I'm taking off my shoes because I'm gonna get comfy. Okay, so Jim, I'm not gonna tell you his last name. He's not watching. And if he is watching, oh well. So I had this boss named Jim. And Jim was new to our area. He was originally from the West Coast, and then he had worked down south, and now he was here up in the Northeast, okay? And they made him my boss, and we had never met. And I found him to be an affable guy. We watched a lot of the same TV shows. We were able to do movie quotes together. It seemed like it could be good. He was a little awkward, a little stilted, but that's okay. Some people just are. I can deal with that. I can roll. The problem was that he started always picking on everything I did. Like, no matter what report I handed in, he was definitely going to call on me on a group call. He was going to call me and he was going to ask me a lot of questions about it. Whatever decision I made, he was either going to call me or email me and question me about it. It was like everything I did led to a question. And every time he asked me the questions, I was like, dude, what is your problem? Why do you have a problem with me? Why do you question everything I do? Like, do you just think I suck? Like, this is really annoying. You're on my last nerve. Like, it was just like, it got to the point where it was like, I don't even want to leave him a voicemail or send him an email because I know he's going to ask me like a bunch of really annoying questions. Or he's going to come back questioning a decision I made or a ruling I made or something I did in one of my centers. And it was like 6 months of this. And he was just wearing me down so much. It was the most stressed out year of my life. And he was a part of it. I don't know, I was reading a book, or I was listening to something because I was commuting, so I spent a lot of time on a train. And I read or heard something that said, sometimes when people say things or comment about things that we've done and it pisses us off, it's because we think they're right. I was like, excuse me, what? But this kind of marinated for a while. And I started thinking about when I would immediately get triggered by what he said, I tried to pay attention to what was it? What was it about what he said that triggered me? And I started to realize that in many, not all, but in many of the cases, there was a kernel of truth in what he was saying or questioning. There was perhaps a different way I could have done something. Or maybe deep down in my heart, I didn't feel that I had done my best on this. Or that, you know, there was another way I could have done that report. Or, you know, maybe I kind of phoned it in this month on renewals or something, you know, maybe did I really? So I started to question his feedback and then really try to look at the feedback and say, all right, is there anything in this plethora of nonsense that I can maybe learn from? And so I started trying to do that. And then eventually I had to talk with him about it. About 6 months into our working relationship, he and I had a conversation. The conversation went surprisingly well because I said, we were having a 6-month review thing, and I said, so this is what I would recommend that you do. Talk to them. If someone is constantly questioning you or calling you out on calls, it might not be what you think it is. Shockingly, they might be trying to help you. And it's like when your parents are trying to help you, they do a lot of stuff that ticks you off in order to help you grow up. So anyway, so I have this call, we have this one-on-one, we're doing it virtually for some reason. It wasn't COVID times, it was just, he was in California, I guess, and I was in New York. And so we're going over kind of my performance review, and we're just at the beginning of it. And I said, can I just start by just being really candid with you? Because I knew he valued communication. I knew he obviously loved to communicate, right? I was like, let me try to communicate with him. And he was like, yeah, sure. And I said, and I hope that you'll take this feedback, you know, as constructively as I mean it. I said, but I feel like every email response or a lot of times when we're on a call and you call on me, I feel like you are doubting my ability to do my job well, or that you question my ability or my decisions. And I could see his face start to get puzzled. And I said, and maybe that's not what you're intending, but that's how I'm picking it up. And it's really confusing to me. And it's kind of stressing me out. Is there, you know, am I not doing what you want me to do? Like, can we just talk about this before we go through the whole evaluation thing? And he just sat back in his little desk chair, and he was stunned. He's like, I'm so sorry that you're interpreting it that way. And he said something that reminded me so much of something my father said to me when I graduated from college, that it was freaky. He said, do I question your ability? He said, actually, it's quite the opposite. I'm getting choked up talking about this. He said, I think you're doing an amazing job, and you know, and he basically told me I was crushing it, and that, you know, he thought I was the best leader that he had in the team, and that he relied on me heavily, and like all of this great stuff. And I was like, kind of like, then, okay, so why all the questions? And he's like, that's just my process. I mean, we can always do better, is what he said. Now, he was a big believer of good to great. There's a book called Good to Great. He was always good to grading us. So basically, no matter how good you are, you can always get better. So even though I may have just rocked the house, he would ask me questions that he hoped would lead me to do even better next time. And I was interpreting the questions as him thinking I had not done a good job this time. And yes, he agreed that he did push me in some ways harder than he pushed the other directors. But that's because he saw something special in me. And you're like, well, gee, thanks a lot, Jim. But, I mean, that was the truth, right? That might be the case if you have a boss that's riding you a lot. Are they riding you because they don't like you? Or are they riding you because they think you can go places? The only way to know is to be brave enough to have that conversation. Let's say you got a bully. Okay, it's just a bully. This is not somebody who's trying to make me better. I'm not misunderstanding. We all agree this person is just a bully. Melissa, how the heck do you handle a bully at work? I feel like, and this is just me, but I believe in killing bullies with kindness. I'm a big fan of this. I highly recommend the killing bullies with kindness method, which means never rising to the bait, never showing them that they're getting to you, never let them see you crack. Now, if they're doing really bad stuff, I mean, HR, do all that stuff, but sometimes it's like at a level where it's not really HRable, but it's just like, okay, this person's just a jerk. I think in life, just like I talk about handling online trolls by ignoring them, don't feed them. When you've got in-person bullies, don't feed them. Don't give them a reaction, because that's what they want. And also be super nice to them. Not super nice in a way that you're being like obsequious and like trying to make them like you. And because then they think that, oh, you're afraid of me. I'm just saying, just be really nice to them. Good job on unloading that pallet, or hey, you know, you did a good job with that tricky patient, or whatever. Don't take the bait, don't rise to the bullies, and then get out with your other coworkers. Now, I'm not talking about behind people's backs, because I figure if there's a bully, you guys are already talking behind their back. So agree with all the other people, like, look, this person's a bully. Let's stop and think about what makes a person a bully. It's insecurity. So maybe by not feeding their negative behavior, but by trying to bolster them up a little bit, a compliment here, a nice word there, a hey, do you want to sit with us at lunch type of thing, maybe that calms down the part of them inside that is feeling insecure and inferior, and because of that, they stop being a bully. This has worked for me in the workplace. I had a director before I became a director who ended up becoming one of my best work friends. But for the first year that she was the director over my area, she was such a freaking bully to me. And it turned out down the road that I figured out why. It was because she saw me as a threat. She just could see that I was really smart, that I was really on the ball, and she had a lot of insecurities. She doubted her own abilities, and so the only thing that she could think of was to keep putting me down. But then it was so funny because when a job opening came up, I became on the equal level with her. Well, first of all, she promoted me, which was kind of funny because I was like, what? She's always picking on me, but a manager position opened up and she was like, do you want to go for it? And I was like, do you want me to go for it? Because I was like, I thought you hated me. But she's like, I think you'd be great. You know, not like super, but she was like, I think you'd be great. And so then I ended up working for her. Things got a little bit better. But then when I became a director, that's when I realized it, because now I could see inside of her head. I worked side by side with her, and I realized that I was always helping her because she struggled a lot. She was insecure, and that's why she was such a bully. So try that. So those are some of my those are some of my advice on how to deal with a boss that's a jerk. I don't have a cornucopia of different tools. Mostly it's just about communication, looking inside yourself to see, am I causing them in some way to be a jerk to me? Or is there a kernel of truth in what they're saying, whether they're a jerk or not? So how do I get people fired? All right, so the really nice guy, Jim, although our relationship improved to some degree, overall, his inability to adapt to the different world that is the Northeast, in particular New York City. New York City, which was my region, represented 40% of the entire company's revenue, okay? So he's a vice president. I'm the director over New York City. He's vice president of the whole East Coast. But I represent 40% of the company's revenue. And this is a global company. New York City's a lot of money. So he, like, you know, I mean, we're working better together, but he's putting in place policies and procedures that just are not going to work in my area. I'm following his rules and people. I'm losing tenants. We're having sales issues. I went around him. I made an end run around him to his boss, who understood New York City. And I was like, look, you know what? He's got a lot of great points. We've worked out, because she knew I had some issues with him. I was like, you know, we're working way better together. But you got to give me free reign in New York City, or it's going to tank trying to do the stuff that he's trying to do. And so it was like, okay, well, what are they doing? It's like, are any of the other directors feeling like, you know, like they're actually, you know, failing because of his policies? And I was like, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're willing, you know, to talk about it, but also I told everybody, I was like, look, if you really think that Jim is screwing things up for you, go talk to Donna, because she's really open to the feedback. Yeah, and he got demoted and moved to another region. So he went back out west. So he didn't get fired, but he wasn't a vice president anymore. Turns out he's a vice president again. And then another guy, so go circling back to sexual harassment. Okay, I got a guy that was like 5 levels above me in a company, fired. And he thought he was God, okay? And he was just, yes, he was a bully, he was a jerk, he was all these things. I hadn't really learned all of my coping skills for dealing with a bully yet, but there was a situation where we were opening a new building. It was my project. I had worked on this whole transition. I worked with the builders. It was the whole thing, but I was the operations manager, and there was going to be press there that day, and there was going to be like a ribbon cutting, which meant I was going to be kind of running around a lot that day. It would mean maybe like me having to crawl on the floor with wires. When you're in operations, you never know what you're going to have to do. So he tells his admin to tell me, he doesn't tell me this, but he tells his admin to tell me this. She calls me up and she's like, I know this is gonna piss you off, but I just got off the phone with Don, and he asked me to tell you to wear a dress or a skirt tomorrow. I'm sorry, what now? And I was just like, what? He wants me to what? And she said, he asked me to tell you to wear a dress or skirt tomorrow. I was like, wait. Why? She said, well, because you're probably going to be in pictures, and he wants you to be dressed nicely in a skirt or a dress. First of all, we were a company that didn't have a dress code. You could wear jeans. You could probably wear your pajamas to work. So that's the first thing. But the second thing is, you don't tell a woman what she has to wear because pictures are going to be taken. Oh, no, you didn't. And I was like, is this exactly what he said? And she said, yes. I said, okay. So I went and I talked to my boss, and he was looking at me. I was like, look, KW, regardless of how wrong this is, I'm telling you right now, I'm not doing it because I might have to crawl around on the floor with wires tomorrow. I'm going to be going up and down stairs. I'm going to be climbing up and down on ladders maybe. We don't know what's going to happen last minute. It's completely inappropriate for me to be trying to do this in a skirt and a dress and like heels. I mean, it's just, I'm not doing it. Will I be dressed nicely? Yes, but I will be wearing pants and I will be wearing flat shoes so that I can do my job. And my boss was like, he's like, absolutely, absolutely. And he's just sitting there and he's like, and my boss looked at me and he said, do you feel like you want to talk to HR? And I was like, you know what? I do. So I called HR and I reported it and I told them, you know, the message didn't come directly to me. It came through his admin to me. And I guess when they talked to his admin, she confirmed it and they came in, had him come in because he didn't come to work often. They had a little closed door meeting with the man after the event though. But he did give me a look up and down that day when I showed up in black slacks and a sweater and flat shoes. He actually gave me a look up and down and I was like, no, you didn't, because I'm calling HR. And I told them, I said, and it, you know, I mean, he didn't say anything to me that day, but I did get a look. And, you know, I also, by the way, I wasn't in any of the pictures. Somehow was not, you know, it was his admin who had nothing to do with the project was in the pictures, but not me, but she was dressed in a skirt. She was dressed in a short skirt. She looked cute, you know, not me. I'm running around with my hair in a ponytail and slacks on. Yeah, so HR had a nice meeting with him in which they informed him that he was no longer 5 levels above me. He was unemployed. Fight back. When you know that you're being harassed, fight back. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, so I got him fired, I got Jim fired. Who else? Wait, I got somebody else fired once. Yeah. So there was this other guy who was actually he was really nice to me, but he was completely incompetent, but he was my boss, and I did his job for the longest time I covered for him until he messed up so badly there was no fixing it. And then I had to go above him and let them know that this had happened and I couldn't cover it up or fix it in any way. And then they were like, so it has been you that's been doing all the work. And I was like, yes, but I didn't do this. This was him. I didn't do this, but you knew that? And they were like, we suspected that he wasn't smart enough to be doing that. So I got a promotion and he got fired. So that's some things about how you could handle potentially difficult bosses. I hope that they're helpful for you. And please ask me questions in the comments. Ask me, you know, if there's topics that you'd like me to cover. You know, I've been through a lot of things in life and maybe I can help you out in some way and I would be glad to do that. So please share your stories about horrible bosses in the comments down below, or good bosses if you want to share some really great experiences. And until I see you again, know that you are loved very much, and I love you for coming here to watch my videos. I love you so much. Thank you for watching. Bye.